So good afternoon, fellow Toastmaster. It's great to see you or 10 tonight for our third and last Tuesday evening session that we experiment in April, May, and June. And again, we have a full agenda. One more meeting in June, our normal second meeting of the month is going to take place next week on Tuesday. And this will be the last meeting of this season for our team of club officer before the new team takes over. So we look forward to also have you next week coming to our meeting. But without any ado, I will turn over to our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Melanie, to run this meeting in an efficient and effective manner.
Thank you, Toastmaster Tristan. Yes, efficient and effective way. It's because I looked at our agenda and I'm very excited to say it is completely full, and it's probably the first time I've seen this in a long time. As Toastmaster Tristan mentioned, it is our last evening meeting, so it's a nice way to end our trial period that we had for the past 3 months. This has been our 2021 Toastmaster year, and I'm thinking of revisiting this idea, but we'll wait until we get back to full swing in the autumn of 21 before we resume any evening meetings. It is a bit challenging getting home from work and getting logged on, and some of you have families and dinner time. So it was a nice trial period. It's come to an end, and it's a wonderful way to end with a full agenda. So if you allow me to go through some of the points, we do have a full program. We have 2 prepared speeches, one from quite a new member, Gabriella, and the second from a, let's say, seasoned or veteran member, Adult. And Adult is actually starting all over again because she's going through her pathways. So before I go on and say anything about our speeches, we have as well got a table topic section and of course our evaluation section. So I'm going to turn over the floor now to our general evaluator for the evening to introduce her team, and that would be Monica. Monica, please take your mute off.
Do you hear me? Do you hear me now? Okay, thank you very much. So good evening, everybody. I have the honor to be the grammarian general evaluator today. And you know that providing feedback is one of the most important elements of all of our sessions. So I have, I'm going to observe the conduct of the meeting. At the end of the meeting, I will provide a report. And I have a team who is assisting me in evaluating the meeting. I will perhaps just mention the names because I think most of us are quite familiar with the roles. So I will just introduce, but first of all, I just realized that my video is not on. So perhaps now, now it's better.
That's better.
Yeah, so sorry for that. So I have a team, as I was saying, who is going to help me to evaluate the session. As was previously mentioned, we have 2 speeches today. First, the speech of Gabriela, who is going to be evaluated by Toastmasters Maria Teresa. Then we have another speech from Adot, who's going to be evaluated by Toastmasters Melissa. We have a grammarian today who is going to be Toastmaster Ines, a timekeeper who is going to be Rena, an counter who is going to be Tatiana, a ballot counter, also Rena. And as I said, I will give you my evaluation at the end of the meeting. So now I would like to hand over to our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Monica. But before we move any further and hear our prepared speeches, we'd like to hear from our grammarian of the day, Inez, to introduce the word of the day and what her role will be. Inez, please turn off your mute.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, Toastmaster Melanie. I have an expression of the day rather than a word, and that is a Pandora's box. A Pandora's box is a source, what it means is a source of extensive but unforeseen issues. Could be problems, could be troubles, could be different things. It could be used, for example, in the sentence, the investigation turned out to be a Pandora's box for the office. My role as a grammarian is to listen to the use of the English language by the speakers and especially focusing also on grammar. May I now turn control of the meeting back to you, Melanie, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Inez. Yes, Pandora's box, once you open it, it's very difficult to close it again. So let's see what happens during this meeting and what we can learn new that we probably don't want to put back in the box. Our first speaker of the day is Gabriella, and I'd like to call upon her evaluator, which is Nicole. No, it's not Nicole. It is Maria Teresa, to tell us a bit about Gabrielle, what she's going to present today, maybe the pathway she's on. So Toastmaster Maria Teresa.
Thank you, Toastmaster Melanie, as Toastmaster of the Day. Actually, it's your job to present the pathway speech, the project, and the minutes, but I'll tell you about what the objectives are. It's funny, pathways no longer refers to objectives. It calls it purpose statements that I read from the evaluation form. The purpose of this project is for the member to present a speech on any topic, receive feedback, and apply the feedback to a second speech. And this is Gabriella's second speech. So, furthermore, the purpose of this speech is for the member to demonstrate that he or she has applied the feedback received from the first speech. So back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Maria Teresa, and thank you for that correction. I appreciate all the help you give us. Gabriella.
May I know the time slot?
We would like to introduce you because you will be giving a speech between 5 and 7 minutes. The title is The One Skill You Need. Gabriella, the one skill you need. Control of the meeting is yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster Melanie. Fellow Toastmasters, a few months ago, I decided to register to participate in the UN Secretariat Mentorship Program as mentee. And after an introduction session with my mentor, one of my first questions to him was, what skills do I need in order to have a successful career in the UN? After pausing for a second, he said, we all have different skills and abilities. Some people are very good at visualizing objects. Others are very good at interpreting or analyzing data. But according to research, the particular skill that all successful leaders and managers have across different industries and sectors is an extensive vocabulary, because you're more likely to make yourself understood. He also added an example and said, if you pay close attention at how Antonio Guterres speaks, you will notice that he always uses the correct word. He's very precise on the word that he chooses, and that makes all the difference. I took this advice very seriously. I know myself. I'm good with numbers. I'm not very good with words. So in the last couple of weeks, I've been doing some research on how I can improve my vocabulary. And what I have learned can be summarized in 3 big steps. The first step is concentrated reading. The most common advice to develop vocabulary is to read more. And it is well known that developing a reading habit has many advantages. We should read anything that interests us, from books and magazines to newspapers and websites. However, when we read, usually there is an urge to know the story, and we tend to skip words that we don't know. Instead of avoiding these words, we should first try to guess the meaning of the word from the context. And if we're not successful with this technique, we should then write those words that we don't know or that we're not able to define. How much time should we read? Well, at least 50 minutes a day of concentrated reading. Some alternative recommendations to reading include playing games like Scramble or Words with Friends. And some other sources recommend to subscribe to Word of the Day feeds. However, in order for these tools to be effective, we actually need to take notes while we are playing the game. We should write down the words that we saw while we were playing and that we don't recognize. Now, I've been doing both, concentrating reading and playing Scramble. And my advice in this particular case will be not to use technology. The quality of words that I saw while playing Scramble is not the same as the quality of words that I saw while I was reading a book. Besides, seeing the words in context is more helpful than trying to memorize a vocabulary list. Not only are we exposed to new words while we're reading, but we can actually see how the words are being used. The second step is to use the dictionary. We should always keep a dictionary close to us, and we need to learn to use the dictionary correctly. One word can have multiple meanings, and the meaning of the word that we're looking for may not be the first one. So it is important to read the full entry. Besides, a full dictionary entry will have information about antonyms, root words, and related words. And this is another way to learn more vocabulary. The last and final step is to review the words that we look up in the dictionary. We should dedicate time to review the words that we look up in the dictionary. And in order to do this effectively, we need to write down all the information of the word in one place. Could be a notebook or index card. And we should review one word once every couple of weeks. However, the most important thing is to put in practice the words that we just learned. We should try to learn the words. We should try to use the words in a conversation or a written communication. It is actually possible to amass a huge vocabulary list without actually knowing how to use those words. Now, by now you're probably thinking, well, she may not be very smart or she had not been paying attention to Toastmasters. So one night, as I was thinking about everything that I had learned, I kind of realized that well, this is why we have the role of the grammarian and why we have a word in each session of Toastmasters. It is to help us to improve our vocabulary. And I had to confess that until recently, I kind of been ignoring the role of the grammarian. Sorry, grammarian, I promise to do better next sessions. Now, no matter what method we ultimately decide to use, the key to improve our vocabulary is to be aware of the words that we don't know, to use the dictionary, and to put in practice the new words. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriella, for that very informative speech. Now, as Toastmasters, we are all given the privilege to be able to write 1 minute of feedback to our first speaker, Gabriella, today. And of course, we're going to hear from her evaluator at the end. So I'd like the timer to give us 1 minute, and please send a private message to Gabriella, not to the whole group.
1 minute is over.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rena, our timekeeper. Now for our second prepared speaker, we have Adot. Adot has already achieved 2 levels with the original Easy Speak, the ACB, which I'm sure Maria Teresa can tell us what those initials are, and the CL, which I believe is a communicative listener. Not so sure, but when you start over in Pathways, it is a totally
Competent
different
leader.
system. Oh, thank you. Totally different system, and you have to follow a certain path. So I see here that she'll be following persuasive influence, and I'd like to ask her evaluator to tell us a little bit more about what we can expect from this speech. The evaluator is Melissa. Melissa.
So the purpose of this project is for the member to introduce herself to the club and learn the basic structure of a public speech. So you are completing your first speech in Toastmasters, and I'd like to give you an evaluation based on your speech and the delivery style. But because this is your icebreaker, Adot, and it's your first project, maybe I'll only use the notes and not the numerical score. Thank you.
That's sweet of you, Melissa. Fellow Toastmasters.
The timing, Melissa. I'm going to tell you first that Adot.
Yes, the time is 4 to 6 minutes.
Yes. So Adot, the floor is yours, or the microphone.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. Have you ever tried to describe yourself to a blind person? It's really quite challenging. And I think it's the scary part of an icebreaker. You must somehow present yourself authentically, maintain your inner cool, and hold the audience's attention. Challenging indeed. I thought that for this icebreaker, I would actually try and look at myself as an onlooker, as opposed to looking at the reflection on the mirror. So who is Adot? The vital statistics are, Adot is a medium-sized height woman of African descent. She appears to be of a certain age because she has these silvery kinks and colors in her hair. She speaks English very fluently and has a good knowledge of spoken German, seeing as she casually greets her colleagues who are of German-speaking stock in their language. She also has the typical African female shape, all these round areas, but perhaps not so much roundness on the upper front between her chin and her belly. Her skin is dark brown, perhaps like dark chocolate. And she speaks a little unlike the African that she is because she doesn't seem to have an accent. People say, however, that she has this lovely modulated voice, which sometimes brings calm to fretful babies and colleagues alike. It is rather a deep voice, quite unlike your typical female voice. Those are the vital statistics. What of marital status? Because that's an important statistic when one is presenting oneself. Does she have family? As a matter of fact, she says she's married to a lovely Austrian man who she met in her 4th year in Vienna. And the two of them happened to need a squash partner on a day when their respective squash partners had canceled. And because of the lifestyles they had and the importance of squash in that lifestyle, neither of them wanted to skip their game. So the club manager managed to organize for them to play a game together. Some 27 years or so later, and 2 children, she stands here before you, breaking ice. Neither of the 2 play squash anymore because parts have aged and younger players have come on the scene and have basically wiped them off the squash floor. Adot says she has 3 other siblings, 3 sisters, and 1 brother. Both her parents passed on within 2 years of one another between 2004 and 2006. And her younger sister has lived in Vienna with her, or in the same city, so to speak, since 1992. But the younger sister now, of course, has her own life and her own circles of friends because she happens to be 11 years younger. Now, you must be wondering, is this woman really an African? I mean, she's lived all these years in Europe. She doesn't really speak like an African. Apart from her outward appearance, very much really convincing about how African she is. Well, she says she's a national of Kenya, and both her parents are of Luo stock who come from Western Kenya. Her parents grew up of Christian families, and because of that went to school and moved from the western part of the country to the capital. The part of the country they come from is known for producing many scholars in Kenya. And in fact, a Nobel Prize winner, who was also the vice chair of the Intergovernmental Panel on climate change, is also one of those people. So they boast, in fact, that that region has the highest per capita of PhDs on the entire African continent. One can check those facts in perhaps the World Bank data. And that is allegedly because of the fish-based diet. Nonetheless, Adot grew up in Nairobi, which at those days was a tiny little town. Who's the timekeeper? Lena. And had less than 1 million people. In fact, I think it had something like 500,000. And now it has nearly 5 million people, which is close to 2/3 of the population of Austria. When I was a child, when Adot was a child, the city ran really well. It was run more like a British town with a council that works, collecting rubbish on time, having a bus service that functions, and so on. The water was never rationed, electricity ran, there were no power cuts, there were no potholes in the streets. All of these things, if you go to Nairobi now, you will see. It's a whole other place with the 5 million people plus, bustling, high-speed urban center. It's the headquarters of 2 United Nations agencies are located in Nairobi. And at the same time, there are a lot of expatriates. My knowledge of Nairobi should already tell you that it cannot be from having read about it, rather, but by having grown in that place. So who is Adot? Adot is this person breaking the ice. Madam Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Adot, for that very personal reintroduction of yourself to the club. As some people do know you, I personally didn't know, and for sure didn't know that little tidbit of history that so many PhDs come from where you originally come from. That's quite impressive. And again, fellow Toastmasters, you are given the opportunity, which I think is not enough time, but 1 minute I would need Rena to give us to send a little feedback to Adot, let her know how she did. And of course, we will hear from Melissa, her evaluator, by the end to get a full evaluation. 1 minute, please, Rena.
1 minute is over.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rena, our timekeeper. I didn't finish my little text to a dot, but I'm sure I'll have another opportunity to finish before the end of this meeting. So now, my absolute favorite part of any Toastmasters meeting, aside from hearing well-prepared speeches that do make us a bit nervous and preparation, and there's a lot that goes into a speech. But sometimes when you don't have preparation time and you just speak off the top of your head, impromptu, sometimes the best ideas come out because they come directly from your heart. So our table topic master of the day is Nicole. Nicole, I'd like to give the control of the meeting to you so that you can entertain us with some wild ideas and challenge us and have us on the top of our toes to give us some kind of explanation between 1 and 2 minutes. Nicole.
Thank you, Melanie. I hope you will regret what you've just said. I heard two interesting things today, which are related to what I chose as a table topic. First of all, the Pandora's box. And I think that today I'm going to open one. And you are the ones who are going to have to look into that box. The second one is that Gabriella, my mentee, said in a speech that in order to function well in the UN, you have to have an extensive vocabulary. And she told us how to try and extend our vocabulary. Today, what I would like to do is to go away a little bit from what you're used to, and that is UNEs, because the longer you work in the UN, the more you develop that terrible language, which is called UNEs. And we forget that English, or American for that matter, is a language that has most of the time not much to do with the way we speak it in the UN. So today we're going to go back to basics, and I'm going to give you a number of expressions, of sayings, of colloquial words, and I'm going to ask you to tell me what they mean, to give me an example, for instance, yes, right, and to give me the origin of the word or the saying. If you don't know it, I'm sure that you have enough imagination to find something. I'm going to start with a simple one, or so it seems that I hear. And I'm going to ask, who am I going to ask? I'm going to ask our president. It's an easy one, at least. It seems easy. It is the expression to pull someone's leg. I can give you an example, like my friend Anna is always pulling my leg. What does that mean? And where does this expression come from?
Fellow Toastmasters. Nicole, you really pulled my leg into this speech and table topics right now. So, pulling someone's leg, it comes from a story, a true story that happened in 1654 in Uruguay at the time of the first arrival of some very early explorer, actually coming from the African side, which we did not know they would come in Uruguay at this stage, before actually the Spanish conquistadors and all that. So they arrived there in that beach close to Montevideo. And on that beach, they met some local tribes that were living there. And as they were disembarking from the boat, one of the local tribe actually took a step to pull the people out of their boat and actually pull them by their leg. And that story then was told generation after generation deep in the Amazonian forest until In 1976, an explorer found that tribe and heard about this story, which then made it to the National Geographic and made its expression known worldwide. And I think we should be grateful for that great story. I return the control of the meeting to you, Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you, Tristan. And like the Italian says, si non è vero, è ben trovato. And but you didn't give me the present meaning of the expression, though. What does it mean nowadays to pull someone legs? But we'll see later. I'm going to give you another one. Every time I write them down in the chat, so if you don't understand what I'm saying, you can read it. And I'm going to try and challenge the native speakers there. Adult. Adult. What does it mean to say to bark up the wrong tree? And why do we say that?
Madam Toastmaster of the day, you might be barking up the wrong tree right now. I don't really know the origins of this expression. I've always found it a bit strange because when you watch a dog barking up a tree, they neither look confused nor stupid nor anything. They're just bloody barking up a tree. But barking up the wrong tree means chasing the wrong goal or following the wrong lead. It means you've got it wrong. It means you've misunderstood the thing completely, whatever the thing was. Why barking? Why trees? I think only the English can tell you that. And I'm certainly not a native English speaker. I'm a learned person, perhaps, having read lots and lots of English books, but that's the one thing that never showed up in any of the books I read, except when it was describing the situation I just gave you. When one was looking for an answer in the wrong place, when one was assuming a guilty person, someone they felt was guilty, was not guilty, and these types of mistakes where you're going down the wrong road, basically. Madam Table Topics Master.
Not bad, Adot, not bad.
Go around that one, huh?
I'm going to give a challenging one to Melanie. She wanted a challenge, she's going to get one. It's a very simple expression. You know the expression hands up and what that means. But what about the expression hands down? And what does that mean?
Fellow Toastmasters, Nicole, thank you for such an easy expression, because hands down, I got this, because I am a native speaker. Hands up, you can dance around, but when you are hands down on top of something, that simply means that you are in control. You completely understand what you're doing and you're ready to dive in. You've got both hands in the game and you're not afraid to do it. Like Nike says, just do it. So I always have to keep one eye on our timer, because when I go to explain a situation that I think I know so well, I tend to go off subject. But hands down for me is something I like to think about even when I'm dealing in issues at work, because you want to give off this, let's say, confidence that you know what you're talking about. So I've told you all before that I do work with all men that are technicians. So hands down, I go in there and act like I really know what they're doing. I make the gestures, and I pretend to write down everything that they're doing. And then I go back to my office, and 9 times out of 10, I pick up the phone and call my husband and ask him to explain what is going on, because he's actually an Austrian and a technician. So hands down, I may not understand everything, but I found a very good tactic to get along in this world that people will think I know what I'm doing. Over to you, Table Topics Master Nicole.
Thank you, Melanie, but you'll leave it to me to tell people where the expression comes from. Now, I've got another one, which I'm going to give to Maria Teresa. Maria Teresa, if you're out there. Maria Teresa, if I said to you, this is going to cost you an arm and a leg. What does it mean and where does it come from?
Fellow Toastmasters, an arm and a leg means everything. You're going to pull it out of the person. You're going to extract it, whether it be, I don't know, a promotion. Arm and a leg is basically grasping, but very intense, very, very strong. I have no idea where this idiom comes from, but it is very descriptive. An arm, not just an arm, but a leg. You're going to take it all. You're going to take the limbs. You're going to take the body parts. You're going to go for everything. Again, you actually forced me to want to look it up now on Wikipedia to find out where it really comes from. I only can say I don't use that expression very often, but it's definitely worth knowing about. Back to you.
So it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. It cost me an arm and a leg to put it to you, but you see, but I won't let you go to Wikipedia. I will tell you, I will give you the solution in the end. Now, I have another one for another English speaker. I'm trying to spot the English, the native speakers here, but I have a nice one though. Tatiana, I don't see Tatiana. She's behind her avatar. Tatiana, okay, Tatiana. Tatiana, do you know what it means when you say butter somebody up? To butter, like the butter, somebody up.
Yes, I think I know what it means. And the expression is also used in other languages, meaning making someone agree to do something for you indirectly, and doing it with nice but still unrecognizable gestures or words that person gets relaxed and maybe too relaxed and doing something what otherwise he or she would not be doing for any other reason. The expression is a bit negative as I feel it, maybe coming from the culture of massage or making somebody pleased with a ritual of putting butter or oil on the skin, but otherwise making the things going smoothly with special approach or special discussion or proposals. I think that would be the expression you just gave me. Over to you.
Not bad.
Yeah, Toastmaster.
Thank you, not bad. I have a last one, which seems easy, but I think the challenge is to know where it comes from. I'm going to give this one to Rena. Rena, do you know what it means when somebody says, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater?
Rena, I can time you if you want.
No, no, no.
You got time yourself.
Baby out with the bathwater.
You just Googled it.
No, I didn't. I have no screens. I was just reading it.
Rena.
I was reading in chat. I have no time to Google it. I am not an IT expert. I cannot do it.
Disqualified.
Fellow Toastmasters and my dear friends, actually, to be honest with you, this is the first time ever I hear it. To throw the baby out with the bathwater. I would imagine the meaning of this phrase might be, do not waste your precious time. Do not waste your time with unnecessary stuff. Or value everything what you have, and do not what shall I say? Do not waste your time with unnecessary stuff. I can imagine that. But as I said, this is the very first time I hear this. I hear this sentence. I'm sorry for that. Okay, and now I spoke for 1 minute and 4 seconds. I am stopping my time. Back to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Rina. Well, in French, you know, it tended to cross the channel so that we use it in French. In French, we also say that something is not our cup of tea, whereas we should say it's not our glass of wine, right? But for some reason, we say it's not our cup of tea in French too. So I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to tell you what these expressions mean and where they come from, so that you can, like Gabriela, extend your vocabulary. And your next challenge will be to try and insert one of those expressions when you have a conversation in the UN, to show people that you know the English language, right? So the first one, pull someone's legs, you know, is constantly pulling my leg. To pull someone's leg means to tease someone, to joke about something with someone. But the origin is interesting. So nowadays, pulling someone's leg is all in good fun, but it originally described the way in which thieves would trip their victims to rob them. So they would, you know, put their foot between their legs and trip them. So they would pull their leg in order to be able to take something from them. That's where the expression comes from, to pull someone's leg. But yours, Tristan, was not that bad. It was a bit original. It was a bit complicated, but it was original. Now, the second one, barking at the wrong tree, Adot. Yes, you're right. It is usually pursuing a misguided course of action. It is the expression is quite clear. You know, you're barking at the wrong tree. You're doing the wrong way. But it is it's a hunting expression. It explains when a dog would literally bark at the bottom of the wrong tree after the prey, usually the bird, has already flown away. That's where the expression comes from, bark at the wrong tree. The third one was the hands down. That was Melanie. Yes, hands down is you do something easily. You don't have to put your hands up. You know, you do it without really making any effort. But it is a horse racing expression. In the 19th century, when a jockey could remove his hands from the reins of the horse and still go on, you know, with the horse going on galloping, and he would have his hands down and not on the reins. That's where the expression comes from, hands down. That's an easy expression, but the origin is not that easy. Okay, now I had it cost an arm and a leg. It is a quite common expression. You know, you go to a shop and you buy yourself a Chanel dress and you say, my God, it cost me an arm and a leg. But why do you say that? Why do I say that? Not very often, because I don't buy Chanel very often. So the story goes to the 18th century painting. That's an interesting story, because famous people like George Washington would have their portraits done without certain limbs. That is, for instance, without the legs or without the arms, because having your portrait painted, without the arms or without the legs would cost you less. It wouldn't cost you an arm and a leg. Now, I hope I'm not forgetting anything. Yes, to butter somebody up. To butter somebody up. Yes, it is to praise someone. Usually, you're right. That was Tatiana, right? That was to gain a favor. And in fact, Rina, it comes from India. It comes from ancient India, when people would throw butter balls at statues of God in order to seek good fortune and their favor. That's the British colonial time, you know. So that's why it's taken from India, to butter somebody up. That is to try and praise somebody in order to get something. And finally, Rina, to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It means that you have to look for avoidable errors in order not to remove good things with the bad. You have to try and select so that by throwing something away, you don't throw out the good things too. But the origin is a nice thing. It comes from the time where the household bathed in the same water, the whole family, you know, when people didn't have a bathroom. So it was the Lord first, the men, the lady, the children, the babies. And the babies came last. And the bath water is said to have been so dirty that there was a risk of throwing the baby with the bath water. Okay, so now not only do you know nice expressions, but you can try and place them in a conversation and, you know, look smart when you tell people, well, but I know where it comes from. So now I think that you have to give the ballot. So I'm going to go back. The first person I asked was Tristan with pulling someone's leg. The second one was barking up the wrong tree, adult. The third one, hands down, sorry, Melanie. The fourth one, I think, was butter somebody up, Tatiana, and then there was Maria Teresa, which it cost an arm and a leg, and Rina, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day.
Nicole, thank you. I was very entertained with these expressions, and I don't want to act like a know-it-all. I didn't know where they came from, but I actually knew what most of them meant, because I am someone that loves expressions like this. In fact, I think I use them too often. I'm always saying that I'm going to cross that bridge when I get to it, or you can't get blood from a stone if you want to get something from someone and they're just not doing it. So it's really nice to hear the older ones that I don't use so often. Maybe I'll start using them again. I don't know.
Do please, do, especially in the UN, do.
No, in Cyberstorm, it's worse. So, but interesting about the bathwater, because that's probably the reason why the children didn't live that long, because there was so much bacteria and it would just kill those poor babies. So as you all know, we're going to send our votes to Rina, who's taking 2 roles today. So just privately to Rina, go ahead and send who you'd like to vote for. Real quick, I'm going to do it myself. And in the meantime, I'd ask our general evaluator, Monica, to get ready to tell us a bit more about how she felt that our meeting went today. And I'd like to hand control over to Monica, the general evaluator of the day. Toastmaster Monica.
Thank you very much, Melanie. So now the evaluation part will start, the part where we give some positive feedback to our colleagues. First of all, I would like to call on the first evaluator, who was Toastmaster Maria Teresa, to please give us the evaluation for Toastmaster Gabriela.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters, Toastmaster Gabriela, you did it. You really nailed it, as we would say. You got it right from the very, very beginning. I'll tell you one thing about me. I love it when I see an interesting title. And when I ask you, what is the one skill you need? You wouldn't tell me. You said, you'll have to listen to my speech, Maria Teresa. So you were a little bit provocative there. But at least I thought it was very clever that you brought in this idea of what it is that you need to succeed in the world. Vocabulary. I mean, that's why we're here in Toastmasters, to communicate and use words. Although, Nicole, I know a lot of the idioms you mentioned, a lot of the people I would speak to wouldn't understand them. But back to Gabriela. I liked the way you developed it. It was very fluid. You were very well prepared. That was obvious. And you also have learned the power of 3. This is something that all Toastmasters seem to be enamored of, the power of 3. Although next time, maybe make your body gestures 1. Oh, I'm not seeing myself. 2. Oops. You see, it's not so easy in Zoom. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I thought you could have drawn that out a little bit. The quality of the words you used were really, really good. And again, you didn't overdo it. You gave us quite a lot of information, but I found it wasn't overwhelming me. In fact, I thought I really learned something. Now, Toastmasters nowadays with Pathways has specific criteria, and it's a little bit new for me, but I will mention it to everybody. On the evaluation, you get something along the lines of you excelled at. I think you excelled at least with your engaging personality. Again, with the way you presented yourself. I thought you would be very nervous, but that didn't come across. The second point that Toastmasters mentions, you may want to work on. If it was me, I suggest you use a little bit more vocal variety. Go up a little bit, go down a little bit, pause for effect. Otherwise, your English is, I'd caught no grammatical mistakes or anything wrong with the language. And the last thing it says to challenge yourself. Well, I don't think you need to be challenged. I think we need to hear more speeches from you. I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and I think it was a great success. So I turn back to our general evaluator for the evening, Toastmaster Monica.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Maria Teresa. Now I would like to call our second evaluator, Toastmaster Melissa, who is going to evaluate Toastmaster Adot.
So hello, good evening again, fellow Toastmasters, and in particularly Adot. Adot, thank you so much for bringing all these new icebreaker to us in presenting so many different aspects and maybe a few new episodes and curiosities regarding your life, things that we didn't know. So you started really well with the metaphor. I can tell you that is some of the skills that more advanced speakers will be using. So you are on the right track, Adot. I think there is a good Toastmasters path ahead of you. If already in your first speech, you are already using metaphors. So really well done. So you use the metaphor of how you describe yourself to a blind person. How do you describe yourself within a blind audience? So that immediately create an impact. So we're starting to think, yeah, how would we do that? And then you went on with this interesting impersonal third person description saying, who is Adot? Where does she come from? How is she? Describing your vital statistics, describing your family, and many other things using always a third person. So again, this was a very innovative way to do the icebreaker, and it really captivated the audience, which is one of the objectives that you should have in mind. So I would like to bring again the elements that it has been so interesting here to use to bring ourselves to the next level, always using new expressions. I really think we are opening the Pandora's box, but what is really happening with Pathways? What is really happening when we ask competent communicators and advanced speakers to go back to the icebreaker? Sometimes you'll think that Toastmasters is trying to pull someone's leg by doing this. And I'll feel that Adot, you are almost barking up the wrong tree. It's like, what are you doing there doing an icebreaker speech? And how am I supposed to tell you what do you have to work on and how you could challenge yourself? In a sense, I feel that as an evaluator of a competent communicator, an advanced communicator, and all these titles that you have, me having to be in this position, I also feel that Toastmasters is pulling my leg and that I'm barking up the wrong tree. But hands down, you really know what you are doing. And, you know, to get there, we know it will cost you an arm and a leg because you have always prepared so well. It took you so many years to get to where you are. It takes time, it takes patience. You always invest a lot of time to prepare your speeches, so it's not overnight that you get to be there again where you really started, which is the icebreaker. So now you are back to square zero. So I'm not trying to butter you up or trying somehow to get to please you too much, but really you did a fantastic job. I don't want to throw the baby out with the water and just say, you know, why is pathways here standing ahead of us? Where are we supposed to go with pathways when we have to do the icebreaker after so many years? But I'll just say, in this sense, some of the things, not that you have to work on, but some of the aspects that maybe you could have brought to this speech. And now, so let's get to these things. Maybe you can stand up. When you are talking about your past, I think one of the interesting elements, you could have brought some maybe pictures, photos. You're talking about your family, you were talking about your country, you could bring a map. You can just enhance a little bit more the presentation by bringing these elements to engage the audience. And the final thing to finish, you start with a very strong beginning using the metaphor. Maybe you could also have a strong finish. What are the key things that you would like the audience to retain from all this? But again, this is just opening the Pandora's box, because I could stay here forever going in circles, and then we are just back to having Edot, forcing Edot to do her icebreaker and telling her where she should improve. So this brings my evaluation to the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Melissa. Very impressive use of all these expressions. Very nice. So now I hope I will not open the Pandora box. I think we are just going to give positive feedback, and we're going to keep it short. And I would like to call the rest of my team to give us their report. I would start with the timekeeper, Toastmaster Rina.
Hello, friends. I give a short report on the timing. Gabriela spoke for 5 minutes and 48 seconds. Ardot, 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Table topics, Tristan, 1 minute 39 seconds. Ardot, 1 minute 19 seconds. Melanie, 1 minute 32 seconds. Maria Teresa, 50 seconds. Tatiana, 1 minute 19 seconds. And I spoke for 1 minute 8 seconds. Nicole gave her all these details and expressions, and she took 4 minutes 57 seconds. And I forgot to time the evaluation time of Maria Teresa because I was counting the best table topics. I completely forgot about it. Melissa took 4 minutes 33 seconds to give her the evaluation. This ends my report. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rina. Now, our grammarian will give us the usage report for the word of the day, and will tell us how many errors we did and what were the nice expressions we used. Please welcome with me the grammarian.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. You were awesome. I have nothing really to report when it comes to grammar and the use of the English language. Congratulations. However, I have a couple of issues which I would like to bring to your attention. With Gabriela, I thought that clearer pronunciation would be very helpful in her speech. Very often, I could not really hear whether you said speak, reading, speaking, etc. So I think a slower pace in speaking, and also somehow not to swallow also the words would help, because I know in Spanish actually we should swallow words. That's actually the tone of the language. So I would suggest that you look into that. When you said using the dictionary, these days we have, at least in my experience, I see that the dictionaries are actually the time of the dictionary in terms of really physical books, the ones we had when we're studying, for example. We hardly use them anymore. These days, much is on Google or on Wikipedia or electronic dictionaries. And I can imagine that that would be also much faster, much quicker. And of course, I do not want to contradict what the mentor has said for the English language, but I can imagine there are faster ways to look up for different words. Adot, I thought the use of the expression, the German-speaking stock and the African, the Kenyan stock, it is actually a very nice way to play with the language. I could imagine that some people, the English-speaking community could say, actually, I don't want to be in the Kenyan stock, or I don't want to be the German-speaking stock, because it could raise some sensitivities. Just food for thought for you. Perhaps there is nothing wrong with it, but I just thought, okay, let's keep that Pandora's box closed. In the table topics.
Oh, you muted. You muted. Ah, we cannot hear.
Yeah, in the table topics, I thought that the expressions used were really wonderful, and it was a very good balance to the UNEs, which we always use. We'll have to use also in our writing and also our discussions. Sometimes it's good to give more color to the language, and I really like the table topics which Nicole has really brought forward. I thought that the expression, it's interesting, the expression, it cost me an arm and a leg, is something which I have heard a lot in Asia and in Singapore, especially. And the interesting thing is that I was asking, where does it come from? And somebody explained to me that it's a very mean explanation, I must say this at the same time. In Hong Kong, when the Chinese, a Hong Kong Chinese was giving a Singaporean a hand, and he had to get his hand back after the introduction, he had to count his 5 fingers to make sure that the 5 fingers were still there. It's a very mean one, but it is something which you find in the society, and I was flabbergasted when I heard this. Thank you, Nicole, for wonderful table topics. The grammarian crown is the crown which I would like to give to Melissa for her very creative way of really presenting her evaluation. Thank you, Melissa. You nailed it. And now I hand out one thing before I forget. The Pandora's box as an expression was used many times. I lost track of it in my count, especially at the last part of the meeting. But with that, I would like to hand control of the meeting back to the general evaluator, Toastmaster Monica.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ines. Now it's the turn of the accounter. Toastmaster Tatiana, please give us your report about the gap fillers.
Thank you, Toastmaster Monica. The A counting was interesting experience for me, and I'm sharing the results immediately. Tristan had muted twice. Monica, you yourself did 8 times. Melanie once. Gabriela 4 times. Melissa 7 times. Adot 3 times. Nicole 3. Maria Teresa once. I think I did twice. Rina 3 times, and Ines twice. Thank you. I'm over with my report. Back to you, Toastmaster Monica.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Tatiana. Now our ballot counter. Toastmaster Rina, can you please give us your report?
Yeah, yes, fellow Toastmasters. And the winner of the table topics is the man with a lot of imagination, Tristan. I mean, his imagination was amazing, and he's the winner of the table topics. And he's the only man in our group. Where is the gender equality here? Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rina, and congratulations to Toastmaster Tristan. Well done. Now my report, I will just keep it short and simple. We started on time. That was perfect. We also filled the roles at 200% in Easy Speak. So that was an achievement. I liked the idea. I think it was Maria Teresa's idea to always write the role next to the name in Zoom. I think all of us have the role written down, and I think that's a very good thing. I think we're going to finalize on time as well. It's 7:10, so I think we're doing great with time management. And all in all, I think for me, it was an amazing meeting. I really liked the topic masters very much. I think I learned a lot. And as Melissa was doing it, I hope we all are going to use all these expressions and widen our vocabulary. So well done, Nicole. So I think that's it for tonight. And back to you, Toastmasters of the Day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Monica, our general evaluator. I think it was your first time being the general evaluator, and I have to say you did outstanding. And as you know, this is the official end to our last evening meeting for the Toastmaster year 2021. And I'd like to hand over the final part of our meeting to our president, Toastmaster Tristan.
Thank you, Toastmaster Melanie, to have run this meeting with you and your team. Once again, was very interesting, enriching, learning new things about ourselves, but also about how to improve ourselves, and that was very good. I was a bit surprised on the table topics, but I just remember when I joined when I joined Toastmaster a few years ago, you have sometimes just to, what you have to say doesn't have to be true, but sometimes you just have to jump on your feet and start talking. And that's what I was a bit dry on that one. So I just made it up on the fly. It's not the great based way, but just be prepared, because then it sounds like at least you make a little entertainment from it. So, but thanks for that. Thanks for some amazing speeches and some also some unusual way of delivering them. I like Gabrielle's speech on the story, how it started. I found it very interesting from Adot to use the third person to introduce ourselves, and that was very enriching and enlightening. And I discovered that actually it's great that they change pathway and they bake back the icebreaker again, because I've seen Adot in other meetings, but finally I got an introduction of Adot, and I thought that was a great way. And I also enjoyed very much how Melissa managed to on the fly package all these expression on the thing. So that's a great sign of mastery and skills. On that note, I would like now to invite you to attend our next meeting next Tuesday on the 22nd. We have a couple of speakers. We already have topic masters. There's just a few roles that are available to join. I also would like to inform you that at the end of the next meeting, we will do a little handover short ceremony between the existing officers team and the new team. So because we're basically, we're not throwing the baby out of the water, but we're just handing the key to the new team. So I think it's also a moment to acknowledge. And before I close, I would like to invite Toastmaster Maria Teresa, for a few parting thoughts.
Yeah, I just would like to clarify, we are going to have regular meetings over the summer, correct?
That's correct. So
Okay, Melanie, we need to get cracking. There's only one meeting in July. Okay,
Yeah, Maria Teresa, I added one to show you how to do it. Thought you would take over, but I'll just walk you through it. Make a phone call.
well, well, okay, we can deal with that later. The other thing, and it's not my prerogative, a $50 word. I think everybody ought to be a little bit more careful with the transitions and don't say thank you so much. Return control to the general evaluator or the Toastmaster of the day. And Rena, the way you said, hello, friends. Back in the day, had anybody done that, they would have been torn to bits. So be careful. Distinguished Toastmasters, we had no guest tonight. Other than that, it was a very entertaining meeting and we're finishing on time. So I'm going to be quiet.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Maria Teresa. On that note, look at the view. And it's time to get out and enjoy a beautiful summer.
Absolutely.
So on that note, take
Absolutely.
care and see
Thank
you
you.
soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.